right, thanks everybody for being here. Whereas Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, we're going to convene a work session to discuss an ordinance to amend the Camden County Unified Development Code to establish regulations governing data centers, to provide for definitions, permitted uses, development standards, performance criteria, and application requirements, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. So we'll convene the work session.
Joey, clicker don't work.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Thank you, John.
Good evening, Commissioners. As Robbie stated, this is a proposal to amend the Camden County UDC to establish regulations governing data centers, provide definitions, permitted uses, development standards, performance criteria, and application requirements. What are data centers and why are they in such high demand? So, a data center is a building or facility housing infrastructure for data storage, processing, and other related digital services. Why are they in demand? Due to the increase in data generation and consumption from artificial intelligence, data analytics, cloud computing, etc. So I would like to start off by saying that we wrote this with the collaboration of several county ordinances, including Jones, Coweta, Colton, and Kingsland. We tried to lean more towards Kingsland ordinance since we are neighbors. We also received additional information free of charge from a consultant who provided us with a few ordinances they had written as well on data centers. So the first proposed change we would like to make is an amendment to Article 2, the summary table. Currently, it reads Section 228, Table 2.2, allowed land uses by zoning district. We would like to amend data processing, hosting, and related services as follows. Current use, NAICS Code 518, use, data processing, hosting, and related services are currently allowed by right in CG, Commercial General, Industrial Restricted, and Industrial General. We would like to amend this for NAICS Code 518, use data processing, hosting, and related services, excluding data centers, allowed by right in Commercial General, Industrial Restricted, and Industrial General. And NAICS Code 518, use data processing, hosting, and related services, including data centers, allowed with a special use approval in Industrial Restricted and Industrial General.
So that means it would come before us as a board for the special use approval versus just the planning commission.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We would also like to create a new division in Article 3, restrictions on particular uses. Article 3, we would like to create Division 5, data centers. This would be a new section, Section 332, data centers. The provisions of this section shall apply to all data centers and data center campuses, including expansions of existing facilities within the unincorporated area of Camden County. Purpose. The purpose of this division would be to establish guidelines and regulate the use of all data centers and data center campuses. The goals of this division are establish clear definitions and classifications for data center uses, limit data center development to appropriate zoning districts, protect groundwater and surface water resources through conservation-oriented standards, ensure adequate utility capacity, minimize adverse noise, visual, and environmental impacts, promote sustainable design, energy efficiency, and responsible long-term operation, and ensure that data center development occurs in a manner consistent with the public interest and the long-term goals of Camden County. Section 333 would be definitions related to data centers. I did not have the space to put them up there, but the definitions are listed in the draft ordinance that you all received.
I'm just going to leave this on. What is a hyperscale data center as opposed to a regular data center?
So a hyperscale data center would be one that is, I apologize.
Basically, size.
Yeah, it's the size. So anything 500,000 square feet and larger, with an electrical demand exceeding 50 megawatts would be considered hyperscale.
Okay.
Section 334, general provisions. Section 334A, permitted zoning districts. Data centers shall be permitted only upon special use approval in the industrial restricted and industrial general zoning districts. Data centers shall not be permitted as a use by right. Section 334, general provisions B, prohibited locations. Data centers shall be prohibited in residential, agricultural, and commercial zoning districts, within FEMA-designated floodways, within coastal high-hazard areas, V zones, and coastal A, the Limois, on barrier islands or environmentally sensitive coastal lands.
Pretty much rules out Camden County.
The sensitive areas, at least. Section 334, general provision C, development standards. 1, minimum lot size. A, the minimum lot size for data centers with less than 100,000 square feet of gross floor area shall be 50 acres. The minimum lot size for data centers with more than 100,000 square feet of gross floor area shall be 200 acres. We did want to keep this consistent with other ordinances, and this seems to be about what other jurisdictions are doing. It is, excuse me.
What's Kingsland doing as far as lot sizes?
So Kingsland has a smaller lot size requirement than we do. Give me just a moment and I will.
So basically, we'd be more restrictive than the cities,
Yes, we would be more restrictive than the city.
because usually it's the other way around.
So the way that I was thinking, or the way that I interpreted this was that the city of Kingsland has a much smaller density, and we have the larger parcels of land out where there's more sensitive areas, wetlands, and conservation areas. We want to protect those.
I think that's a little aggressive.
Okay.
Are you in favor of being less restrictive on data centers?
I would go to the same lot sizes or whatever that Kingsland has. But I haven't found their lot sizes yet.
I apologize, I do have
But,
that.
you know, 100,000 square foot on, building on 50 acres, that's a lot of wasted land as well.
My understanding is data centers can be quite loud and noisy, so I feel like that setback might actually be appropriate.
What's louder, a factory or a data center?
Arguably a data center.
I would,
A factory
after-
would be louder.
after being in factories all my adult life, a factory is probably louder.
And that is one of the requirements of this ordinance for them to not exceed 60 decibels.
Yeah, you'll get into that a little bit later, won't you?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, I will.
Or your buffer, later on, your buffers would basically limit where you could put it on your lot. So, you know, a 50-acre lot size for 100,000 square foot building doesn't necessarily jive with the amount of setbacks that you have.
Cassie, could I ask you, what was your thought process in developing the setback?
So I just wanted to be a little bit more stringent since we do have so many wetlands and floodplain areas.
Yes, ma'am.
But also, this is why I wanted to present it to you all first, get your thoughts on this. Just the larger parcels with the larger buffers, protect the surrounding areas, protect our environmental areas.
And I know, we're talking about unincorporated Camden County, not
Yes.
the municipalities.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people kind of move into those rural areas to escape some of that industry and hustle and bustle. So I believe that setback sounds quite appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move forward,
Yes, sir.
and then when you get to buffers and separation, I got a couple of questions about that.
Section 334, General Provisions, Development C, Development Standards, Buffers and Separations. Data centers shall maintain a 500-foot buffer from residentially zoned property lines. Data centers shall not be located within 1,000 feet of any existing residential structure. Required buffers shall be measured from the data center property line to the adjacent property line and shall remain undisturbed except for approved landscaping, screening, or stormwater features. Required buffers shall include landscaped areas and solid walls or berms designed to provide visual screening and sound attenuation.
Okay, let's talk about the setbacks just a little bit. You've got a minimum, let's use front yard just for an example. You've got a 150-foot front yard setback, and you've got a 500-foot buffer. So I'm assuming the setbacks are for office buildings, not strictly related to the data center itself.
Yeah, it would include all buildings.
But we've got a 500-foot buffer
So are you going
as
to
part of the
require,
buffer. So I think we just got to make, I'm not saying I'm against any of this. I just want to make sure we're real clear on what setbacks versus buffers are and where the buffers are utilized. If you've got a 150-foot setback for a administrative building on the front, you can't do a 500-foot buffer,
Yes, sir.
that area.
I see
Now,
what you're
the
saying.
500-foot buffer, I think, is more of the, we'll call it the functioning part of the data center, not the administrative, not part of the, any ancillary buildings. I think the intent's here, let's just make sure we're real clear on what's a setback and what's a buffer.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Actually, Robbie, you brought up a really good point that I now have a question on. Is the setback from the property line or from a specific building?
It's going to be from the property line.
Okay.
And traditionally, when you're doing the development, 150-foot setback, you can still park inside the setback, things like that. But I just want to make sure we're clear on what these two sections are going to entail.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There we go. Section 334, General Provisions D, Operational Standards. Noise measurement standards, maximum levels at residential property line, 60 decibels daytime from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 50 decibels at nighttime, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Noise levels shall be measured using the ANSI or ISO recognized sound measurement standards by a qualified acoustical professional or licensed engineer and during normal facility operations, excluding force majeure events or emergency conditions. Generator testing, emergency generators shall comply with all applicable EPA emission standards and shall be used only for emergency operations, utility outages, or routine testing. Routine testing shall occur only between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m., shall not exceed 8 total hours per calendar month per site, and shall be conducted in a manner that minimizes noise impacts to adjacent properties. The planning director or designee may require advance notification of routine testing schedules for facilities located within 500 feet of residential zoning districts. Section 334, General Provisions D, Operational Standards, Lighting. Maximum levels at residential property line. A full cutoff fixtures shall be required, and a maximum of .05 foot candles shall be allowed at the residential property lines. Section 334, General Provisions D, Operational Standards, Water and Cooling Systems. Open-loop cooling systems shall be prohibited. All cooling and ventilation systems shall utilize closed-loop systems. Prior to construction or occupancy, any applicant proposing groundwater or surface water withdrawals in excess of 100,000 gallons per day shall provide proof of a valid Georgia Environmental Protection Division water use permit, including an approved water conservation plan where required. Proof of application and a copy of all permit conditions must be submitted to the county before any grading, building permit, or certificate of occupancy is issued. Facilities proposing groundwater or surface water withdrawals in excess of 100,000 gallons per day must demonstrate that water use is minimized and that any consumption use is mitigated. If the project site is within the coastal permitting plan area, applicants shall document compliance with applicable coastal water conservation conditions adopted under the Georgia EPD plan. The county may deny an application if adequate water resources are not available or if the proposed use is determined to adversely impact existing users.
On C, I would put occupancy of an existing building, where you got prior to construction or occupancy. The existing building, then they need a, you know, this
That makes sense.
approval or whatever before they can occupy an existing building.
Okay, yes, sir.
Smart.
Section 335, Environmental and Emergency Requirements. Coordination with Camden County Fire Rescue and EMA shall be required. An environmental impact analysis shall be conducted. A water withdrawal permit application shall be submitted to EPD if the thresholds are met.
Did you skip power generation?
I think so.
Did I? Section 334, General Provisions D, Operational Standards, Power Generation. A primary on-site generation prohibited unless otherwise authorized through special use approval. Such approval shall require a finding that the proposed generation will not adversely impact surrounding properties, air quality, or infrastructure. Backup generators shall only be permitted for emergency use, must comply with all applicable EPA emission standards.
Who determines what an emergency is?
I would say EMA would make that determination.
Well, you know, if they lose power, that's an emergency to them, and they need to fire up their backup generators. But I would reword this to where primary on-site generation of power is permitted through a special use permit. I don't have a problem with somebody coming in and building a power plant. Maybe they'll build a power plant big enough to help supply Georgia Power or REA.
What is the decibel level on a power generation facility? Is it similar to the 60 decibels on a data center?
I don't know, but I would think it'd be more than that.
You don't think it'd be
Again,
more
I don't know, I'm not an expert on
It's
decibels,
only
but
going to be in an industrial type area.
Yeah.
So, you know, do you want industry in this county or not? You know, that's the question. You know, and there's many ways that you can generate power.
Okay.
I do not know how much that would be, but I can tell you that most jurisdictions have a threshold of 60 to 70 decibels allowed for data centers.
I just think that's something we should look at before jumping to, you know, just allowing them to do it.
but that 60
we're
to
not
70 is
allowed-
outside of power generation. Power generation is a separate discussion, other than the generator itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we have any power generation facilities in Camden County currently?
Not in an unincorporated area that I'm aware of.
You got nuclear power out on the base.
She said unincorporated Camden County, but.
You used to have it at the paper mill. Anheuser-Busch has their own generator. Okay. The paper mills in Fernandina generate their own power.
Not nuclear,
No,
boilers.
yeah.
Certainly, the statute could be addressed if we already have a 60 or, ambient decibel ordinance, that could include the power if we needed to address it that way. I mean, that might be one way to consider your interpretation here.
Yeah. I definitely think keeping the special use approval is important, though.
Well, that's what I said. Permitted with a special use permit.
Isn't that the same thing, just different? Prohibited unless otherwise authorized through special use approval?
Word salad, yeah.
right.
Yeah, we can chop it up a little bit, make it shorter. Section 336, public hearings. In addition to Section 1211, public notice, all adjacent property owners within 1,500 feet of the subject property shall be notified via first-class mail no less than 15 days prior to the hearing date. I can say that there's only one other county that did this. It's Coweta County. But I liked the idea of widening the threshold on who to contact. That way, everyone in the area is aware. But I'll also leave that up to you all if you think that's important to keep or if you would like me to remove it.
Well, you also need to put in there that the hearings would be located in Camden County. And, if you're going to broaden the notice out for this, it should be broadened on all notices. I brought that up before the board many years ago, and it was shut down, and it was kept at 300 feet. Yeah, I don't have a problem letting a broader area know.
But you believe that it should be a rounded thing, not just specifically for data centers?
I believe it ought to be for everything,
Okay.
but
Y'all have to
that's
agree.
up for the-
I think 300
for the
feet.
board to decide.
Yeah, 300 feet's what we've been using for forever, but I think maybe broadening that would be okay too. That's a separate ordinance issue, but
Yes, it would
I
be.
think get it more than 300 feet. More people get notified. That's all it amounts to.
Yes, sir, we can look
Particularly in the
into
rural
that.
areas where you get large lots, you may not have any participation because people don't get notices that are part of that neighborhood. If you follow what I'm saying, is 300 feet's not enough sometimes, I think.
And I will say it's only 200 feet that we use right now.
Is it 200?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Section 337, application requirements. In addition to Section 1214, conditional approval of zoning changes, the following shall be submitted: utility letter of availability, electrical infrastructure plan, noise impact analysis. I also had water use and conservation plan on here, but I realized it was redundant. I had it in there twice, so I crossed that out. Detailed water demand analysis showing daily peak and annual water use projections. A copy of the water withdrawal permit application submitted to EPD if the thresholds are met, and a timeline for permit approval. A water conservation plan demonstrating compliance with state groundwater use rules and any applicable coastal water conservation conditions. An energy use and sustainability plan, a stormwater management plan, environmental impact analysis, decommissioning and site reuse plan. The county may require a development agreement for any data center, particularly hyperscale facilities, to address infrastructure, public services, and long-term operational conditions. Section 338, architectural and design standards. Buildings visible from public right-of-ways shall incorporate architectural articulation, fenestration, murals, or glazing on at least 30% of the front facade. Prohibited exterior materials including corrugated metal, vinyl siding, unfinished concrete block, and similar low durability materials. Mechanical and rooftop equipment shall be fully screened from public view using architecturally integrated elements. Section 339, decommissioning. Facilities inactive for 12 months shall be considered abandoned.
So if it's abandoned, how is it decommissioned? Well, they got to have some type of plan to do something with it.
Yes,
You
sir.
can't just say it's decommissioned and let it sit.
Is that verbiage you pulled from somewhere else, used as an example?
That is verbiage that I had pulled from a couple of the other jurisdictions do require that. But yes, I need to broaden on this.
There's got to be a plan that, I've looked at several of them.
Yeah, I think the discussion is if it's abandoned for 12 months, then there needs to be a decommissioning plan to make sure that's done.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's part of that's part of the approval process in the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you look at the city of Kingsland, they have a decommissioning and site reuse plan that's required.
Yes, sir. We'll,
Is there a
we'll,
Hmm.
timeframe attached to that?
No, I
To
don't see a
decommission it?
timeframe.
Yeah, I think if it's abandoned for 12 months, then the decommissioning should be time sensitive. Whatever the time frame is, we need to make sure we have a time frame on that. So they have to decommission it within 24 months or whatever the time period is.
Yeah, 12 months might not be long enough, but
Section 340, enforcement and severability. Any violation of this ordinance shall be subject to enforcement as provided in the Camden County Unified Development Code. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is declared invalid or unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions, which shall remain in full force and effect. To conclude, we did include Coweta County, Kingsland, Jones County, Monroe, and Colton County. We believe this ordinance reflects best practices from each. It is designed to ensure that if data centers come to Camden County, they do so in a manner that is compatible with the community and protective of environmentally sensitive areas.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
all right, going back to the lighting section, I think that needs a little work.
Okay.
Can't find it here. One thing, all exterior lighting should be shielded, so it doesn't put any light up, it all goes down. I think the Coweta ordinance had something decent about the lighting.
I think it's like a dark sky design.
Yes.
Yes, Kingsland also adopted the dark sky.
So all light fixtures, hoods, and/or poles shall have a permanent black finish. I have some things I'd like to add from the 100 miles
Well,
example ordinance, but it speaks to that
Hold on,
same
hold on a second.
portion.
When you say, what do you say about the light fixtures?
It's essentially the same thing, that they're installed in a way that prevents the light from escaping.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the color of the fixtures, and I was thinking, what's that got to do with anything? But yeah, it's basically zero up light is what you're trying to maintain the existing night sky darkness.
Yes, sir. So we can put the dark sky in here to kind of model what Kingsland has.
And Coweta also limits how close the light fixtures can be to the adjacent property as well. And they also go into, the height of the fixtures.
So I wanted to go back to section 335, the environmental and emergency requirements. You don't necessarily have to move it, but the coordination with Camden County Fire Rescue and EMA shall be required.
Yes, sir.
I think that's really important. I do think we should be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
I think they should be required to get some sort of approval on an emergency plan or being really specific on what that coordination looks like. And-
Okay.
And in the very least, EMA and fire rescue should have to sign off on approval. That way, because I mean, if they're the ones that have to respond, I want them to be well aware of what they're responding to and how to fight it.
Let's go back to lighting for a second. There's one other aspect of the lighting. It's a reference to spillover of the lighting,
Yes,
that
sir.
it be hooded and shielded in such an effect that, looking at it from outside of the perimeter of the fence line, if you will, you're not looking directly at a glaring light bulb. The lighting is restrained to the property itself.
Yes, sir.
And rather than having harsh light, you have the property that's in the subject of the lighting experiencing the light. It's sort of like, as you look at these fixtures above us here, when you get a certain distance away from them, you're not looking at a harsh light. And yet, if you're right under one, you look straight up at it, you see harsh light,
Yes.
which would mean we're the data center, that's the public out there. They're not looking at our lights, and we're not looking at theirs.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you look at the Coweta ordinance, it says that any property line abutting a residential use, the lighting shall not exceed .05 foot candles measured at ground level. That's not very much.
That's something you can work on though, right, Cassie?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Something from the 100 miles, and I don't know if you've gotten a copy of this sample
Yes.
ordinance.
I was just provided a copy.
So it mentions something about a natural disaster resilience plan. Being that we are in coastal Georgia on the East Coast, I know data centers originally were a prolific issue more in like the Midwest. And as they've kind of moved east, southeast, we just have a different environment that I think demands different situations to be aware of, like a hurricane, high wind, high storm event. So a natural disaster resilience plan. Also a transmission line impact assessment to identify the need for new or upgraded transmission lines. A tree preservation or reforestation plan. I'd like to see that included in the ordinance.
A what?
A tree preservation and reforestation plan. If they're clear cutting hundreds of acres for a data center, and then the campus is only going to use 50% of it, I believe we should have them replace some of those trees.
Well, the buffer is not to be disturbed, so
Cassie, you may want to check our tree conservation plan because it may cover some of that Cody's referring to.
Yes, sir.
In
I
our
will-
ordinance.
I will check that.
And then something that wasn't included in ours that's on the 100 miles one that I like is a community benefit report that includes the quantifiable data on the post-construction staffing plan and job opportunities, tax revenue, and any community improvement plans the applicant will implement to mitigate and/or counterbalance the negative impacts from the data center. I'd just like to see some sort of requirement for a community benefit report on their end, along with annual compliance reports from them. I asked Ms. Cat from 100 Miles if she would be open to maybe assisting your department on working together for something that might work for coastal South Georgia specifically. So if that's something you're open to, I know that she said she's welcome to the idea as well.
Yeah, we're open for any data that you want to provide us.
Other than that, I think you brought us a really strong start.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, just for reference, how loud is 60 decibels?
So 60 decibels would be just a normal conversation, like between you and I, just about 3 feet apart.
And so the ordinance is 60 decibels beyond the property line, right? I imagine the building's
at
much
the
louder
property line.
at the
Yes,
property line.
Yeah.
at the property line.
Yeah.
At property line.
Because it's probably much louder. You get right next to the building, it's much louder than 60
It's going to be higher
decibels.
than
I'm
that.
sure, yes.
Okay.
Step outside here with our air conditioner, sometimes it's a racket, so.
Yeah, we've got a lot of industry that's well above 60 decibels already, so I don't see the decibel issue being, that's manageable, I think.
Okay. And I know Commissioner Casey, you mentioned that you thought the acreage was too large. Would you like me to do something more towards what Kingsland is doing currently?
Well, I think for, 100,000 square foot building, 25 acres would probably work.
Okay.
Now, data centers larger than 100,000, and you want 200 acres, you got to look at how much larger. That's why I said that your setbacks and all would kind of dictate the size of the lot.
Yes, sir.
I'm not an expert on data centers. Is there an example of what a normal or typical data center, how much acreage they sit on currently?
So it's really just based on what I've seen from other ordinances. Really, I'm sorry, give me just a second. I'm gonna pull one up.
You're the star of the
I
show
would think
today.
it's kind of site-specific.
Yeah,
You got a building, you got wetlands, you got
it's
terrain to
jurisdiction
deal with, so I
specific.
think it's more site-specific than that.
Like if you look at Monroe County, they require 900 acres. So it's really just jurisdictional specific.
That's Glenn County,
That's Monroe County.
Monroe County.
Uh,
Where is
where-
You also
Monroe
got to
County?
look at how big that data center up there might be.
Yes.
It might be, a massive one. It might be 500,000 square feet. You don't know.
Exactly, yes, sir.
I think without knowing, that's why we put ordinances in place before we get to that point, so that we can protect ourselves from a massive data center on 50 acres.
Well, there again, that goes back to the setbacks and the other regulations that you got in here, as far as noise being 50 decibels or 60 decibels at the property line. That's going to control a lot of the size and where you put a data center.
I wouldn't take the acreage out, but I would definitely look at the 50 and the 200 acre size.
Yes, sir.
You said 15 to 200?
Well, A is 50 acres and B is 200 acres. I would just make sure that we need to keep an acreage in there, but let's just don't overstate it.
I guess my thing is if Monroe has a 900 acre requirement, I don't want to be the county that has a 250 acre requirement.
Well, and then it also, it varies. Like Jones County is a 400 acre requirement.
And those ordinances, we don't know what the buildable space is. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
there's terrain issues, there's environmental issues, so it could be pared down to less than that, but we don't know that number.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So 900 acres might be in Monroe County, 50% of that might not be buildable space.
Right,
So
but-
you're using up more space.
For Camden County, it seems pretty excessive.
Our big restrictions are environmental wetlands. That's our big restriction on space use.
Yes, sir.
Or space management. And you get the buffers and the setbacks, and you get a building footprint, then you pare that back down into how many acres you really need. And again, I'm not saying don't have acreage in there, let's just be careful how much we put in, because if I'm looking at B right now, and I come in with a 125,000 square foot building, and I've got the proper buffers, and I've got the setbacks, I'm not gonna need 200 acres. So I'm gonna come to the county and say, I want a variance for less than 200 acres. That starts a whole can of worms we don't want to deal with, particularly with data centers, as controversially as they are.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we require that the data center can be no more than a certain percentage of whatever lot size?
That's a good point. I mean, there's ordinances out there that say you have a
There's,
35% buildable space restriction. That's probably a way to go. It takes the acreage out, but it still puts a restriction on the, we'll call it impervious area, meaning the building area is 35% of the total. And that's already part of our UDC anyway.
Yes, sir, but we're trying to be a little bit more specific just with data centers. But, I mean, it's really however you would like to do it.
So Ben, wouldn't that force them to go vertical if they had a smaller footprint? but
Well,
need-
we're limited them to 60 foot or 65 or 70 foot.
So we have a restriction in place for that.
Well, I'd like to make a
Kingsland
note.
does.
I'd like to make a note on that height there. In this ordinance that Cassie has typed up for us, it shall not exceed 70 foot. I'd like to note that we do not have a ladder truck that will reach that height, so we need to be very mindful of our ISO
That
rating.
came out of Kingsland, so we probably ought to lower that,
Yeah, it needs to be lower for us, no doubt.
unless they buy us a ladder truck.
You know, I'm for putting that in the ordinance.
It's been done in the past. But still, 70 feet's a little
So if we put
aggressive
you
for
at,
us.
Joey, if we put you at the top of our existing ladder truck, how high can we go?
7 foot.
So I think what we're saying is look at it, sections A and B and just kind of work it back into, do we really need an acreage maximum or do we need to go back to a percentage of development maximum? And it doesn't need to be, it could be less than 35%, whatever the percentage is. So just think about it both ways.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, what are the next steps in this? How close are we to being at a decision point on this?
I think Cassie needs to go back, take our comments, update what she's presented, and bring it back to us, and we'll go over it again.
Point of my question is, I'd really like for there to be an opportunity for a good bit of public input on this, because we're going to impose this, if we eventually have it, on our citizens.
Sure.
And we have a very, in my opinion, and I may be wrong about this, but there are not a lot of places in Camden County that meet all of the requirements for this to minimize exposure to the coastal effects, storms and flooding and that sort of thing. I pretty much was under the impression that everything to the east of I-95 was considered an evacuation zone.
I think I
Probably a
read
true
somewhere
statement.
you're supposed to be 80 miles inland is what basically they want.
For data centers,
Who said that?
80, but we don't have 80 miles.
If it's 80 miles, then
Reality
what are
is,
we
I
doing?
thought we did.
I'm unsure of that. I haven't read anything to that extent, but I can look into that for sure.
I do know they're sensitive to hurricane events. I'm not sure how that relates to 80 miles, though. So,
Well, the whole county can be an evacuation zone. There's just different zones in the county. So, you know, there's rumor of a data center in Nassau County that's coming. So, you know, if data centers are coming to the coast, Glenn County just adopted a data center ordinance. So if it's coming here,
Do any of
they're
them
not
have
worried
data?
about too much about a hurricane. Now, as far as the stuff that's in the building, you know, as far as anything that's dangerous or whatever, that's why you coordinate with the emergency management and the fire department so that they know how to fight those fires or whatever that may happen in a data center if it ever does. That's the coordination of it, so.
And I'd like them to know exactly what they're getting into, so agreements in place or approvals from those two entities, for sure.
Yes, I did make note of that.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then Commissioner Goodman, back to your question. This will, once you all give me the go-ahead that you like the way the ordinance is written, it does have to be advertised, and it does have to go through the Planning Commission and then be seen finally before you all as well.
Thank you.
yep, there's built-in public hearings already, so. Perfect.
Well, the challenge with that, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
The challenge with the built-in public hearings, are we able to amend it throughout that process? Or, because the public hearings are on what's published, correct?
They are.
Yes, sir, you and the planning commission have the opportunity, you can make changes or
Throughout-
request a change.
Then do you have to re-advertise it and,
No, sir.
no? Okay. I just, to Mr. Goodman's point, if, let's say, we agree on something and we start putting this forward and then the public comes to their first public hearing and they have some really good points that we didn't consider before we pushed it out there as an official. You
Well, if
understand
that
what I'm
came
trying
to the
say?
planning commission as the first public hearing, any changes could be made before it gets to us. So I think the process is already there.
Okay. So the planning commission could recommend those changes before it gets to
Yeah,
us?
and then bring it to us, and then we still have a public hearing after that, so we can still make further changes if we see fit.
Jim, are you happy with that, sir?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, because normally it's like an ongoing process, so when someone wants a copy of it, they're going to ask me for the latest version, and that's going to include any changes that you've made throughout the process.
Just forgive me, I'm gonna go through my notes here to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't have anything else. Board have any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I guess at this point, we're going to end the work session. We'll be back at 6 o'clock for the regular meeting. All right, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. The April 21st, 2026 Camden County Board of Commissioners meeting. We're going to begin with opening ceremonies with an invocation by Commissioner Goodman, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us stand and pray, please. Our Father and our God in heaven, we humble ourselves and come before you. We're thankful for all your many blessings. We're thankful for the things that you allow us to do, and some of the times you allow us to represent the people, and we pray for guidance as we do that tonight. We pray for wisdom. Father, we humbly and respectfully pray for rain. There are those who are suffering, those who are in immediate danger, and we pray that you will give us relief, even if we don't deserve it, and we know we don't. Father, protect those who are out fighting those woodlands fires, and protect those who are out directing traffic. Please give us safety for our officers and our ladies and gentlemen who are first responders. Father, protect our soldiers here and abroad. Father, give relief to those who are suffering and in need of healing. And all of these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Okay, roll call, Katie.
All commissioners are present.
Okay. And we'll move on to are any amendments to the agenda?
I have an amendment, Mr. Chair. We were approached today by the lead Woodbine partners. They run the Woodbine Library. And I move that we offer a letter of support for their grant application and continuing their efforts on the Little Free Libraries.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor to add the item to the agenda? Motion carries.
As a postscript, Mr. Chairman, we need to do that jointly and individually to add strength to their request, please. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the April 2nd, 2026 special call meeting and the April 7th, 2026 regular meeting and public hearings. Do we need two motions for that separately, or can we do it as one? Okay. So the first motion will be the approval of the minutes from the April 2nd, 2026 special call meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the special called meeting, April 2nd, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes for the April 7th, 2026 regular meeting and the public hearings. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the April 7th, 2026 regular meeting and public hearing.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Moving on to the presentations. The first one is a proclamation recognizing the week of May 6th through the 12th, 2026 as National Correction Officers and Employees Week.
Me again, Chairman, as usual. Tonight I got the honor of announcing this proclamation of the Camden County Board of Commissioners, recognizing the week of May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as National Correctional Officers Week. Whereas the week of May 3rd through the 9th is designated as National Corrections Officers Week, honoring the service and sacrifice of correctional officers across the country, and whereas the 43 individuals within the Corrections Division of the Camden County Sheriff's Office play a critical role in the local criminal justice system by ensuring the safety and security of the Camden County Jail and the people in their charge. Whereas these officers perform their duties with professionalism, integrity, and dedication, often under challenging and dangerous conditions, and are vital to maintaining order and upholding justice in our community. And whereas correctional officers exhibit strength and resolve in managing individuals in custody while also contributing to the efforts that support rehabilitation and reentry into society. Whereas the Camden County Board of Commissioners recognizes and deeply appreciates the commitment of correctional officers that they make each day to protect our county and uphold the law. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Camden County Board of Commissioners that May the 3rd through the 9th, 2026 be recognized as National Correctional Officers Week in Camden County, and encourages all citizens to show appreciation for the dedicated service of the men and women of the Camden County Sheriff's Office who serve in these demanding and vital roles. Proclaim this 21st day of April 2026. Robbie Cheek, Chairman, Camden County Board of Commissioners. And we've got some folks from the jail here. We've got the jail administrator, Mr. Eric Watson, and some of his staff here. We'd like you to come up and receive this proclamation from the Board of Commissioners with our sincere thanks.
Martin on the front row, he spends a lot of time at the jail. In the jail? Nope, you gotta get in front of us. Come on. Good job.
Okay, now we have a presentation from Jared Wells concerning the proposed amendments to the Camden County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14 for animals. Jared?
All right, good evening, Commissioners. I am here today to propose an update on the ordinance for animals, Chapter 14, for the county. So to get started, I just want to give us a little overview of what we intend to do as an animal control department within the county. And that is to promote public safety while also strengthening animal welfare and enforcement by an ordinance amendment. And it should be noted that while we keep our public safety our top priority, we do so without risking the integrity of our animal welfare responsibility as well. So that being said, public safety is our top priority. Animal welfare, becomes a close second to that, but, we do what's in the best interest of the public in terms of public safety. The highlights of our changes is right now we currently have an ordinance for animal control that was adopted and approved on August 2nd, 2016. Animal control ordinances should ideally be updated every 3 years to better align with community needs and state law if applicable. That's from the Michigan State University for Public Policy. While some current ordinances will remain the same, there are several additions. And some of those proposed amendments are to provide much more extensive definitions, which can allow us to have stronger enforcement powers, and also includes a repeat offenders clause, which we have needed for a while now. It has a dangerous and vicious dog ordinance is outlined to be held in a much stricter manner, allowing animal control to classify an animal as potentially dangerous, or vicious. The addition to this ordinance is potentially dangerous. State law has it very clear-cut and dry, but it does take it to extreme measures to where the state law also gives us the ability to make that a little bit more strict if we deem necessary. The proposed definition is much more precise, allowing for stricter enforcement. And our enforcement is going to be stronger and more effective than our current enforcement right now. The current ordinance allows for very basic enforcement and impoundment. Proposed ordinance outlines citation and court procedures and escalating penalties for repeat offenders. And our new proposed ordinance gives us much stronger enforcement authority. And going on to the animal care standards, we want to make sure that these are not just basic standards for a blanket, ordinance. These are what our general expectations are for animal welfare. the current ordinance gives a general overview and requirement. The new one was going to strengthen animal welfare, and the proposed ordinance defines requirements, and some of those examples are going to be better required when below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, seasonal requirements, prohibited shelters. Current ordinance gives a, what did it do? Oh. All right. This new proposed ordinance is going to give us a definition for a community cat, which we do not currently have. This new definition is regulated by the proposed ordinance. It is defined as any outdoor, unowned, free-roaming cat that is altered, ear-tipped, and lives as part of a colony with a designated caregiver. These cats are going to be the ones that go through our TNVR project, and these are going to be the cats that we are going to be targeting to be processed through the TNVR project. The proposed ordinance restricts the feeding of feral cats if it creates a nuisance, which we deal with quite often. It's really shorter than I thought it was. Conclusion of proposed ordinances. Benefits of the amendments are going to be stronger enforcement, education of animal welfare and responsible pet ownership. It's going to allow us to be more proactive instead of reactive, to better care for the animals here in Camden County, and preventative regulation rather than waiting for an incident to occur and address it and educate before it actually occurs. That's going to kind of hopefully get us out in front of the problem before it becomes a problem. And the reason why I wanted to touch on this last part, and it says, be it known that this proposal is not to create more government red tape. It is proposed because in regards to animal welfare and public safety, it's just the right thing to do. Animals are considered property in the state of Georgia, and it is very difficult sometimes to tell people what they're allowed and allowed not to do with their property. But at the end of the day, just because your animal is considered property, it does not mean it's not a responsibility. With those responsibilities comes real rules, regulations, and consequences if those rules and regulations are broken. So at the end of the day, I did not want to go through the entire ordinance overview or the overhaul of the ordinance, just because there's just so many. It is much more definitionally aligned. And, I worked with, before Joey became administrator, I worked with Joey under planning development for a little bit, and I know how much Joey is a definition person. So, this proposed ordinance is going to allow us to have definitions for a lot of the things that we did not have before. So we can really dig down deep into the enforcement of what we're trying to enforce. That way, we get better results in court, more effective results in court, and things are just much more put together. But with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thanks, Jared.
Jared, you going to need any additional staff to do this?
Well, we always use more staff.
Question was, do you need?
Yeah, we need more staff, but to do this, we'll make it happen still.
Also, Jared, how many dogs do you pick up, monthly? Just a guess.
Monthly, it obviously just varies, but depending on the situation. I can tell you, last year we picked up 180 dogs.
180?
180.
Cats?
Cats, we're around 800 for the TNVR project.
Are any of these guys getting adopted? Those things, are they still going on? I know when our last guy was here, he adopted them out almost as soon as he got them.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who you're referring to, because we didn't do adoptions then. But I've been here for...
Talking about Seth, when Seth was
Oh,
here.
Seth.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it just varies. I mean, it depends on what we're getting in. It depends on, health, depends on a variety of factors. But we still get adoptions. For example, I've seen where we don't have anybody come into our office for, weeks at a time. And then 1 week out of a certain month, we have 4 or 5 people come in and want to adopt.
Well, the reason I said that is because you still operate in a makeshift kennel.
Yes, sir.
You don't have a lot of room in there.
That's correct.
I'm sure, unless somebody's expanded it. I don't know.
That's correct. I can tell you that, while we do have the 7 brick and mortar kennels is what we operate off of, we do utilize other kennels that we've, purchased throughout the years to help house. But, as our license currently stands, we're only able to house up to 20 for the Department of Ag.
Okay.
And I will say, I appreciate your proactive approach to getting them adopted. In addition to them coming to Woodbine, you actually have, free adoption events throughout the community.
That's right.
The most recent one, I think, was partnered with Alien Treats.
That's right. Yeah, right now we do 2 times a week with Alien Treats. We do 2 times a week with Pet Supplies Plus.
You said the proposed ordinance gives a much stronger enforcement authority. Can you explain how they compare to the existing one? So what's changed as far as your enforcement authority?
So the new proposed ordinance, it gives us a lot more, it's just a little bit more strict, to where I'll give the bedding, for example. Right now, we don't have a bedding/degree requirement in our current ordinance for winter seasons, so for early spring, late fall, winter seasons. This proposed ordinance, we have an article or a line in here for the bedding to be required if the temperature drops below a certain level. The other one is shelter. Right now, we require 3 doors and, some sort of airway for air to get for ventilation. And that one is going to be a little bit more specific too. It has to be off the ground. There's a lot more items to take in consideration whenever they're caring for an animal.
Where is the degree measured? Is it indoor temperature, outdoor temperature?
Outdoor,
So when you have temperatures below
50.
50 degrees in the outdoors, you then have to put bedding down in your.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And bedding can range from an actual bed. It can go from hay. It can go from straw. There's a variety of different.
Do you have a source for that?
A source for.
The bedding?
Tractor Supply?
I mean. Yeah, I mean, we take donations all the time.
Okay.
And I mean, if it's a resident, I'm glad you asked that because we want to help out as much as we can, to in the best interest of the animal. Sometimes we get people that say, well, I got to get my animal vaccine for their rabies. I can't afford it right now. That's why we have a 10-day guideline.
Yep.
Right, to better allow us to help the residents out if they're in need of help.
Have you considered approaching the motels that when they replace their duvets and bed coverings, rather than throwing them in the dumpster, that you can have those for the animals?
We haven't, but definitely something we can explore.
Yep. We did that in Seminole County, Florida. I was with the health department down there, and we got a lot of stuff because, that's loaded with motels down there. And so once we established that pipeline from those motels, and we made it easy for them, we said, you call us, we'll come get them.
Sure.
And take them to our animal control people. And that solved the big problem because it can get cold down there.
Right.
Thank you, Jared.
Yes, sir.
So violating one of these ordinances, is that a misdemeanor?
The side citations are misdemeanors, yes, depending on the severity. For example, cruelty, neglect, those can be classified as felonies if it's, depending if it goes aggravated, depending on depending on the circumstance, yes, it could turn into a felony. But the majority of what we do are all misdemeanors.
Right, and so I guess my question is, but we can't necessarily have, someone's repeatedly having their nuisance animal getting out and terrorizing the neighborhood. We can't necessarily have them arrested because there's no bond associated with these, correct?
Correct. I mean, we don't have, us as an animal control unit do not have arresting powers.
Right, but if you were to recommend them to the sheriff's office, they probably wouldn't do it simply because there's no bond, and they could be sitting there to infinity until they get a court date.
Bonds are determined by the magistrate court judge who who reviews it at that time. There's not a set schedule. Bonds are determined by a judge reviewing the case at that moment.
Right, so for set bonds for some of these repeat issues, that would require a conversation with magistrate court, is that what you're saying?
That is correct. If they were to be arrested, the arrestable offenses is completely different, and most of these offenses are not arrestable because, as Jared said, animal control does not have arresting powers.
Right, but if they were referred to the sheriff's office for enforcement,
If the sheriff's office chose to do that, then that would be an issue for the magistrate court to set an appropriate bond
Yeah.
or determine if certain preset bonds should exist, but that is a court determination that we have no power over.
and the only reason I'm bringing up is because when we talk about having more enforcement ability than previously, I think that's something we should entertain, you know, if you have a real threat of going to jail versus just getting a ticket and then, you know,
Well, I
seeing how it
don't
goes.
necessarily think it's something that we don't entertain already. But, and when I talk about, stronger enforcement, what I mean is, simply, the ordinances being more strict and being more, clear cut and dry, rather than, well, this can be taken this way, or us just not simply having an ordinance for it.
Yeah, I believe the challenge when this conversation first started, though, was, you know, they'll get to magistrate court and ask for a jury trial, and then it gets kicked over to Superior, where the backlog is kind of long, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's happened before. I mean, where we have jury trials. I mean, it happens, often. But, that's where, on our side, as far as animal control department, we want to get them in court to answer for that charge or for that infraction. And that's why, this, with these new ordinances being as detailed as they are, we can bring them to court for I guess, for more than what we used to be able to.
Okay. I'd like to see that explored in the future, though, just because I do believe that there's more that we can do to give you, even if it's in partnership with the sheriff's office, some more teeth to your enforceability.
Any more questions? So you've already got the draft ordinance ready to present.
Yes, sir.
Guess work with Joey and decide when you want to bring it forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So move on to the first public comment section. These comments will be on agenda items only, and you're limited to 3 minutes. And Katie, do you have anybody signed up? Nobody has signed up. Anybody wish to speak to the board?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Timothy Bessett. I just want to just speak on the proclamation that was given for the correction officer. As a sworn chaplain for the Sheriff Department, I really want to show appreciation for the correctional officer in the jail. Throughout the years past, when certain situation was going on in the jail, when it came down to correction officers that was not doing it the right way, I would probably be one of the first ones to expose that. But after being in the conference on last week, the chaplaincy conference in Sea Island, learned a lot there and gave me a greater appreciation for what the correctional officer actually do inside the jail. It's a dangerous job. It's a job that it take a heart to be able to do, because you're dealing with so many different type of people, and to show recognition for them on tonight. I appreciate that from a community perspective. We had a situation about a month ago, where the 25-year-old female died inside the jail, and we was called upon to go and give support to the staff over there. And some of the correctional officers, I doubt if some of them was out of their 20s, and they was very disturbed. That was some of them first time ever seeing a dead body, and to going into work and not knowing what you're going to experience, and certainly not was expecting to have to deal with a death. So I just wanted to commend the commissioners for this proclamation for the correctional officer, because they do have a challenging job, and I think that Sheriff Cheney is doing a great job when it comes down to giving the correctional officers the tools that they need and the training that they need. So I just want to say that thank you for the proclamation given to the correctional officer on this week. They do have a challenging job. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Anybody else wish to speak to the board? Janie?
My name is Janie Everett, and I live at 1106 South Court Avenue here in Woodbine. And I got here late, but it's my understanding that we had someone here from Animal Control. This is a problem here in this county. If you go to the city of Woodbine, to Animal Control, they refuse to take animals. You know, some jurisdictions tell you they don't have vets, or they tell you, you know, to just don't help the animals out. Then some of them tell you they don't take certain animals, like they only take dogs. And then they direct you to the Humane Society. Humane Society says post them on social media for 3 months. And then if nobody responds, bring the animal to them and give proof of ownership. I don't have any way to prove these animals, but I hate to see people kick animals and throw stuff on animals, and you're trying to fix them up and get them shots and all that stuff. So it can become expensive, but you're just not getting any help from animal control. So I'm glad tonight to know that we have animal control people that want enforcement. But, you know, somebody needs to tell me how to get help for these animals here in Woodbine, because it's been an uphill battle for the past 2.5 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Janie. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on to entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we're moving to the public hearing to receive comments from the public regarding amendments to the Camden County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 27, Fire Rescue, Fire Prevention, and Services. Do we have anybody that we
Yes,
speak to?
Captain
the board?
Goebel couldn't be here
I'm sorry?
tonight. Captain Goebel couldn't be here tonight. He's in Brantley County assisting with mutual aid. But I believe Cap Boyette, you
Yes.
can come on up.
Come on up.
Yeah, Chief Boyette, I'm sorry.
I asked him if there was anything I needed to say.
So you got left behind, huh?
I did. I'm not sure at this point I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared.
It's okay. I will say that this has been advertised properly in the paper, and I do have the affidavits for that. And we haven't received any comments from the public regarding anything proposed in the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you need to open it up to the public for any comments for and after, so.
I guess it's, like she said, this is just for the second reading and the adoption of the amendments for the Camden County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 27. So this is just to open it up for public comments. I don't know if you all have any questions for me.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience have any comments for the amendment? Anybody opposed to the amendment? Thank you, ma'am. Take a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene your regular.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Move on to the regular meeting. Item number 1 is Camden County Fire Rescue. Come on back up. Since Captain Goebel's not here, you got left behind once again, right? But you're doing a great job.
I apologize. I really do apologize for it. Chairman, Commissioners, we're asking for this to be the second reading and adoption of the amendments to the Camden County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 27, for the Fire Rescue, Fire Prevention, and Services, and Bree asked that you approve this. as the second reading.
Thank you. Discussion for the board? No, we're going to move to approve this based on the second reading, correct?
Yes, you'll just make a motion to waive the second reading and adopt the amendments to the ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to waive the second reading of the ordinance and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Go sit down.
Number 2.
I was talking to her.
So item number 2 is approval of the 6 remnant defendant settlement from the new national opioid settlement.
Good evening, Commissioners. I would like to request you to consider the approval of entering into the 6 remnant defendant settlement agreement from the new national opioid settlement. I'd like for you to authorize the DocuSign of the 6 remnant defendants, and that's a tongue twister, combined subdivision participation and release form. Camden County is currently a participant in the national opioid cases in the U.S. multi-district litigation based in Ohio. Camden County is represented by third-party counsel Blassingame, Birch, Ashley, and Gerard of Athens, Georgia. Council recommends participating in the settlement. Participating in the 6 remnant defendant settlement is the only way to ensure our subdivision receives a payment from these defendants. Deadline to opt in is May the 4th, 2026. Motion, we'd ask for you to approve this motion to enter into this agreement. Motion to deny or motion to table, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Janice.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the entering in the settlement agreement.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, item number 3 is the, from Lead Woodbine Partners. I think the motion would be to support a grant application for the partners.
May I'll make the
Yes,
motion.
absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, as the board, sign a letter of support in favor of Lead Woodbine Partners grant application.
Do we have a motion? Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think Mr. Goodman suggested we do it individually rather than one
We
letter.
do it individually as well as a body.
Well, I think the body needs a motion individually.
Body needs a motion, yes,
It's up
absolutely.
to us.
Okay, so have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, moving on, have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene the Solid Waste Authority meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn the regular meeting and convene the Solid Waste Authority meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. So do we have any amendments to the Solid Waste Authority agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the Solid Waste Authority agenda?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Now we'll move on to the Solid Waste Authority minutes from March 17th, 2026. Assuming everybody's read those, do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I'm so moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Now we move on to the public comment section for the Solid Waste Authority. Comments regarding the items on the Solid Waste Authority agenda. Limited to 3 minutes. Anybody signed up? Katie? Have nobody signed up? Anybody want to speak to the board regarding the Solid Waste Authority agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to the solid waste agenda. Mr. Pittman, item number 1.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. I bring before you task order number 2026-01. It's an agreement for consulting services for FY '27 environmental monitoring. The purpose of the task is to authorize and direct Atlantic Coast Consulting to proceed with assisting and providing environmental monitoring at Camden County landfills. We have 3 landfills, of course, C&D landfill, the MSW landfill, and of course, Vicuna Road. The scope of service, 3 different tasks that they perform annually: groundwater and surface water monitoring and reporting, methane monitoring reporting, and Vicuna Road landfill annual corrective action progress reporting. The annual cost for that is $139,760. Staff is recommending approval for this task order.
Thanks, John. Do we take action on that, Katie? This is public comment
Yes.
session. We don't take
This
action.
is an action item.
This is an action item.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the task order.
I'll second. Any discussion?
More so a question from Mr. Pittman. This is the same company or organization, consultant that does it annually for us already, correct?
Yes, sir, ACC Consultant.
How does the 139,000 compare to the last agreement we had with them?
It's about a 3 to 5% increase from last year's task order.
All right. And they're pretty much the only organization that does this around us, correct? We don't
Well,
have
they're-
much of a choice as far
They're the
as-
ones that Camden County has an agreement with. They're excellent at what they do in all areas. They are highly recommended, and we work well together performing these tasks. I don't think there's anybody else out there better, but
Yeah, not better, I just didn't know, I saw it was sole source, I didn't know if we had entertained possibly other providers of this service, as far as, sampling and reporting. I didn't know. All right, well, that's all I have, I just wanted to know if this is, it's 3 to 5%, I mean, is that pretty standard on these types of things?
I mean, these folks are really the engineer of record for the landfill, so it just kind of makes sense for them to do this work.
Exactly.
We've had a long-term commitment for how many years? 30 years probably or more?
yeah, they've been here a while,
Yeah, so.
absolutely.
Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Move on to, there any additional Solid Waste Authority public comments? Anybody wish to address the board? Seeing none, have a motion to adjourn the Solid Waste Authority meeting and reconvene the regular meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the solid waste meeting and reconvene the regular meeting.
We have a motion, have a second?
Yes, sir.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda, Mr. Pittman.
Task order, this is the task order, again, that authorized and directs Atlantic Coast Consulting to proceed and with assisting, providing environmental monitoring to our 3 landfills in Camden County. Staff recommends approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this task order.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thanks, sir. Move on to reports, to calendar. Katie? any
There's no changes at
No
this time.
changes to the calendar? County administrator comments? You're limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Turn the
Chairman,
light
I'll
on.
make sure. I do apologize sometimes. I just want to bring to everyone's attention that we do have a burn ban in effect for the countywide, and to let everybody know, to say a prayer for the ones on the north end, as well as everyone that's affected by all the fires around us, because we've got many going on. So if you will, just say a little prayer for everyone that's affected in those, and the workers that are involved. We have several of our people on the north end of 110 that is involved in this as well, Highway 110 out of Waverly. Also, to bring to everyone's attention, April 28th, I want to remind everyone, I should say, April 28th, the sheriff has graciously invited me to attend with him a town hall meeting at the Resiliency Center at 6 p.m. So I do invite everyone to attend that and ask as many questions as you may. So thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Okay, we're moving to the additional public comments section. Has anybody signed up, Katie? We have nobody signed up. Anybody wish to speak to the board?
I'm Ben Goff, live at Harriet's Bluff. I've yet to see anything come before this board that wasn't extremely important, and I commend you on your actions tonight. I would like to say that by now I would have expected to see something about the jail on the agenda, about the roof, about plumbing, and some sort of rectification of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Commissioners. Rick Manning from Bullhead. Well, first I'd like to thank Mr. Pittman. I've talked with him a couple of times. You made a great choice. He's dealt with a few of my questions and answered them, and that's what I like to see. And here it brings me to my main problem. Every time we change leadership, team leaders, board members, we all get the same song and dance. We're going to be more transparent. We're going to hold people more accountable, and it's always words. I'm glad to see we're going to have a town hall because I'll bring it up in this file, and I've got 4 or 5 more just like it. The things I've brought up before this board in the last 8-10 years. The board doesn't even research and look at them. There's a project going on right now with this county that I know for a fact is going to cost over $500,000 for one mistake. If I add the rest of them, it's going to cost these taxpayers more than $2 or $3 million because you wouldn't listen to people that question it. I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. But we're never going to get them if we don't work together. I have never come before this board. I don't have a good presentation. It makes it sound like I'm always madder than hell. I know that. My wife tells me that all the time. So does John Wojcik. He tells me the same thing. But the thing is, I come before this board to solve problems, to save taxpayers money. Yet that ain't the way 90% of the time it's looked at. This project I speak of, I'm not going to speak in the public right now about it. I'll speak with Joey and Robbie. Y'all already know which one I'm talking about. We wasted a pile of money. Piles, because you wouldn't even look at it. This is not the way to operate. Those millions of dollars can be used on a lot of stuff in this county. For instance, the jail. But we're not going to get there if you think everything is just out pointed straight at you because you're a board member. It's not. It's because I care about this county just as much as you do. I have family here. I've got kids, grandkids. My poor mom staying around there. You know, it affects me in more ways than one. And I'm just begging y'all for about the millionth time to start listening to these people. There's a lot of knowledge out here in this county. And together we could solve all kinds of problems if you just listen and think. No, we're not going to agree on everything. No, I don't have the answers. They don't always have all the answers, and neither do you. And if you think you do, you don't need to be where you're at. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. Anybody else? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive
Make a
session.
motion, we adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive session.
Wasted no bones about it. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? We'll be back.
Mr. Besant, just a moment, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the executive session and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All in favor? Motion carries. Do we have a motion? I don't need to make, yeah, have a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
No action was taken.
There was no action. I guess I should have said that, huh? I'll figure it out before it's over with. So what you